All right. We have a presentation this evening. I want everybody to recognize we have Brad Miller from PSTA, and I know you have someone with you I haven't gotten to meet yet, so you can come and introduce yourselves. We have a brief presentation followed by a Q&A from council on the Greenlight Pinellas project. So, and just so you know, we won't have a public Q&A tonight, but they will be at the library. What's the date for that?
The 8th, so we make these
the 8th?
8th or 6th, 13th.
The 13th of March at the Gulfport Public Library. So there'll be another opportunity to hear that presentation. So with that, Brad, thank you for joining us. Mr. Miller, you can take it away.
Good evening, Mayor, and I'm very honored to be here. I'm Brad Miller. I'm the CEO of PSTA, and I have a brief presentation. I hope to be back in your great city shortly to come back to you, perhaps for a vote to endorse Greenlight, the Greenlight Pinellas plan, like a number of cities have already done. With me tonight are two people. Don't see the third. Two people that I want to introduce. First, Councilman Wenge Newton from St. Petersburg, who is a PSTA commissioner. He's on the PSTA board. I was hoping to have your PSTA commissioner, but I think he got tied up in his own city. Joe Barkley with Bel Air Bluffs is your representative on the PSTA board.
He did call and say that he had an engagement at 6, and he may come in late.
Yeah. And then Janet Reckett, our director of marketing, who provided you with some awesome Greenlight bling for this. So I know the mayor has seen my presentation multiple times at the MPO, and some of you others have. I have a draft resolution that I'll pass out maybe at the end for you to just take a look at in preparation for a future consideration for endorsing the vote. First, I sort of want to just start off my presentation by a reminder that Gulfport has a very long, rich public transportation history. In many ways, it was created by public transportation. In fact, former PSTA chair and St. Petersburg councilman has often told me that St. Petersburg was created by luck because the first people in Pinellas County were fighting over whether the train should go to Gulfport or should go to that area over there, and they decided to go to downtown St. Pete, and that's how St. Petersburg got created. But I have actually a map I can pass around. This is my own map from the I think it's from the late 1920s. It's a map of the two streetcar lines that ran here to Gulfport. This is actually a picture of Gulfport with the streetcar. On the top right, the bottom left one is that same route when it got to downtown St. Pete. Since those heydays of the 1920s, ridership has come a long way, and it has never been higher than it is right now throughout the PSTA system. This is a close to 35-year graph of ridership since PSTA was created. PSTA was created in 1984 by the voters of Pinellas County to merge what was a city of St. Petersburg system with the Clearwater system. And that map actually is St. Petersburg Municipal Railway. St. Petersburg is one of the oldest public transportation systems in the United States. Back then, it, of course, made a profit, and the city very early on took it over as a profit center to fund other government services in the city, and that's very rare and sort of historic. But again, we are at an all-time high now. We keep setting records. I think we had I just saw March that we're in now is always our highest ridership month. We do very, very well on the beaches and for spring break, and it has very high ridership. And we came very close to setting, I think, an all-time record yesterday with close to 50,000 rides on the transit system. And that sets us, for the reason I'm here tonight, it's a good thing we have very strong momentum for a vote this coming November. There'll be a vote in Gulfport on the ballot this November for the Greenlight Pinellas plan. And the title of the ballot initiative will list the Greenlight Pinellas plan. The Greenlight Pinellas plan that I'm going to describe is a substantial transformational increase in the amount of public transportation services to Gulfport and to Pinellas County, funded by a 1% sales tax across Pinellas County, and replacing the PSTA current property tax of just under 3/4 mil. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. That followed a number of key votes, an historic vote finally on December 10th by the County Commission, 6-1 vote, to place this officially on the ballot for the first time for our citizens to consider. And again, that is what the Greenlight Pinellas plan is, and that's what people will be voting on, the Greenlight Pinellas plan. The Greenlight Pinellas plan has been formulated really for many, many years, and there's been plans going back to even 30 or 40 years. Some even by Karen Seal, Commissioner Karen Seal's father was involved in developing some of the plans when he was a Clearwater City Councilman. In 2013, we completed all of the plans I'm about to discuss with a lot of public input and a lot of dialogue with the community, and we asked folks what they wanted to see in the plan. Well, now that the county has voted, we have sort of changed our discussion, and my presentation will be formulated around these three questions. Number one, does the Greenlight Pinellas plan have value? Maybe you don't like 100% of it, but do you see that it has value to you, to the city of Gulfport, to our community? Number two, what is the definition of a successful public transportation system, and does the Greenlight Pinellas plan generate that? And number three, of course, is the basic question that people will be asking, do we support this? So first, does this have value? Of course, as the head of PSTA, I believe it certainly does. And I'm going to just touch upon these 5 key values that I believe the Greenlight Pinellas plan delivers. Number one, it's certainly, and every transportation plan that Pinellas County has ever considered is principally designed because of the value of creating and providing people with access to jobs. That's what this plan is. That's what the alternative analysis that came up with the study that came up with the proposed rail system from the biggest job center in the county, Carillon, both south to downtown St. Pete, and also west through Largo and then to Clearwater. That's what that plan had as its top priority. More than 67,000 jobs will be directly created by the Greenlight Pinellas plan, and certainly hundreds of thousands of people will have access to work and to jobs by using a more robust public transportation system. This is a picture that I took on the Central Avenue trolley as it headed west on Central Avenue from downtown St. Pete, and on 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday morning, and that's a very popular route for tourists to go along Central Avenue, and then it goes all the way down to Paso Grill, and a lot of tourists ride that. But at 8 a.m. on a Saturday, the tourists are not awake yet, and they are not riding, but it is still packed with workers. As it leaves downtown St. Pete, it's full of people wearing blue shirts that are hospital or medical workers working in medical offices, and then it kind of transitions to people wearing Hawaiian shirts that say Trade Winds and Serrata on them. Mr. Barkley,
Mr. Barkley, how you doing?
PSTA Commissioner has arrived. Welcome.
Saved your seat up front.
Thanks. That's right. That is what, that's who is using the service, is workers, especially along our beaches where there's very little parking for tourists to park, for the workers to park their cars. They need public transportation. Unfortunately, the services that we provide often end very early at night. I was looking on the map before the meeting, or our schedule. I think the last bus that goes to Gulfport comes around 8 o'clock at night, and then it's even earlier on the weekends. Many of the people on the beaches and the workers have to take a cab back home because the service doesn't run late enough or doesn't run on the weekends. And then they basically spend half their day's pay on a cab. The bed at Trade Winds or the lovely beach at the Sand Pearl up in Clearwater Beach would not be so nice without the people being able to get to those jobs. And that's what public transit can provide and help our community develop. A second value to the Greenlight Pinellas plan is how it can help overall our community compete and grow into the future. This is a map. It doesn't come so great up on the screen there, but there are pink or red areas, census tracts, and there are blue ones. And the red areas showed population decline over the last census period of 10 years. The blue areas are census tracts that showed population growth over the last 10 years. As you can see, most of the growth in the Tampa Bay area has been on the eastern edges of Hillsborough and Pasco counties, where they are growing sort of in the traditional way of new homes being developed on former agricultural land as they grow outward. Well, Pinellas County is essentially already completed that process and is built out throughout its entire peninsula. And so many areas of Pinellas County have seen slight declines. Actually, in the last year or two, it's seen a rebound and started to grow again. But overall, holding pretty flat because we cannot grow in that same way that we have been growing. There literally is no room to expand our roadway system and grow in the way that, say, our other counties are growing. So how is Pinellas County going to grow and redevelop itself into the future? Well, maybe it might be through a different type of growth, a different type of transportation catalyst that can generate transit-oriented development, whereas we can take our very valuable land and capitalize it by not building seas of parking spaces, but instead building maybe up instead of out, where you can have retail and commercial and sort of like the way maybe we operated many years ago. We have been working very closely with the communities around the county itself, and others to look out into the future about this Greenlight Pinellas plan and plan for how it will change our community. And over this past year, we worked specifically with the cities that the proposed rail system goes through, and developers and property owners and residents and businesses in those communities to talk about how they might see their community growing into the future. You know that transportation projects have impacts on land use. You see on US 19, as they're making that into a freeway from Pinellas Park north to the Pasco County line, that is having effects on the surrounding land use. In Clearwater, where they've already started changing it to a freeway, you know that the businesses are changing or going under because they no longer have that same kind of transportation access. And Clearwater is busy working now at doing plans for how they're going to respond to that. Well, we tried to do that in advance. And so this is a computerized rendering of the intersection of US 19 and Roosevelt Boulevard in Largo. And this is how the folks in Largo saw their community growing in the future and capitalizing on this transportation investment, just like a roadway investment. There's a picture down at the bottom of what it looks like now, and this is how they saw their future. The folks in downtown St. Petersburg met and came up with their plan. Pinellas Park came up with a different plan. That is a key component, sort of the planning on how this transit development might occur into the future. But this Greenlight Pinellas plan is just as much about where we want growth to occur and can grow it sustainably as it is about preserving our neighborhoods like Gulfport that we love and that we want to preserve, and maybe have people be able to get here in a different way than they really have today. The Greenlight Pinellas plan certainly provides us with transportation choices that we simply just do not have today. If the bus comes every hour or ends at 6 o'clock at night or doesn't go on the weekends, for many of us who have an alternative form of transportation like a car, it doesn't really make sense, or it's not a real choice for many people in the county to use. But with a more frequent service that run 7 days a week. All routes will run to at least 10 o'clock, and the ones that are, some routes will run even later than that. You might not ride it every single day, but you might ride it to a Rays game, or you might ride it over to the airport in Tampa. You might drive your car and park at a park and ride lot, which we don't have any today, but you'll be able to park and then go over to the airport. That's a choice that many people don't, you never even think of today, but you will be able to think of it with this expanded service. And it does seem to be a choice, a transportation choice that our younger generation nationwide and here in Pinellas County, according to FDOT, is choosing on perhaps even where they choose to live based on having transportation choices. Folks, our youngest folks are driving less and riding transit more, and many of those are maybe can't afford a car because that is in the Tampa Bay area approximately $10,000 a year to afford a car. But even those, and I love the statistic, even those that have higher incomes, those are making $70,000 or more, are riding public transportation 100% more than they were just 10 years prior. And the reason for that is they are choosing to move. Those who can move are moving to places that have choices, like Washington, D.C., or Charlotte, where I came from, or Austin, Texas, or Denver. That's what it seems like the future generation is looking for, a choice. And of course, the Greenlight Pinellas plan offers environmental benefits. There's no other type of transportation that you can use every day of the year in every single kind of weather. We certainly love people who bike, and we have bike racks on every single bus, and they'll be on every single vehicle we ever provide. But sometimes you may need to take something that is covered and can provide public transportation, and we simply don't want US 19 to keep looking like that road that is in Brazil. Last, again, this is a vote for a 1% sales tax across the community and replacement, elimination of the PSTA property tax. So, and you can do this for your own home, or anyone can do this. I looked up the median value of a Gulfport home, single-family residence, and with a homestead exemption, that $189,000 home pays PSTA $101.76 in property tax today. That would go away. That would be replaced with a sales tax that, according to the IRS sales tax calculator, which is on their website, the median family income of Gulfport, which I think is around mid-40s, as I recall, family of four would be $110, according to the IRS. So about a $9 or $8.24 difference. $8.24 per year. The sales tax, the transportation sales tax, is only on goods up to $5,000. So the maximum, even on a large purchase, would be $50 that you would pay for this sales tax. How can, for a relatively, on an individual basis or on a certainly a business property basis, a small change in the cost develop this new transportation system? It's simple math. We have 1 million residents that are paying the property tax today, and there are 5 million tourists who come and enjoy Pinellas County. And this would be a third of it or more would be paid for by non-residents. And that is how we can capitalize on this change in the way public transportation is funded. Before I came to St. Petersburg and Pinellas County, I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, and worked on the Charlotte transportation system, and they're very well known for building a very successful rail system that is now under construction to be doubled in size. It's so successful. But this is a map of the Charlotte bus system before and after they passed a sales tax in 1998. Very similar to what we're proposing. It went from the Charlotte bus system on the left map to the one on the right today. A dramatic increase in the bus system that complements their rail system. And that's exactly what we're talking about doing also, going from the map on the left to the map on the right. this is a map that shows the frequency of the service. With the darker the blue line, the more frequent the routes. And there's basically no very frequent service to Gulfport today. We have 2 routes in St. Petersburg, and the rest of the county is spread very, very thin with service, but not very frequent service. Going to a grid system, which is shown on the right-hand side, where you have a high-frequency grid system of routes. So you don't necessarily need all the buses to pulse in and out of Tyrone Square Mall or in downtown Williams Park in downtown St. Pete. But you have basically, like you see in many other cities, where you have high-frequency routes on the major thoroughfares, and then if you want to go north-south and then east-west, you transfer, and the bus you don't have to wait an hour. The bus comes every 15 or 20 minutes, and so you can make that transfer. That's what the plan calls for on the bus system side. It's not a one-size-fits-all bus system. It is a layered approach with different types of service. The purple lines along the beach and for tourists are trolleys, and those are very, very popular. The red lines on the map are 6 bus rapid transit lines. They would be our highest frequency corridors that would have specialized vehicles and be timed with the signals to run faster. And then increases in frequency to many other services. Some routes, like on US 19, we're talking to FDOT about running on the shoulder, like this picture. This is actually from Minnesota, but in areas where the bus can save time, it would run on the shoulder. On Central Avenue, or actually First Avenue North and South, and along US 19, we would again have specialized vehicles, station-type stops where you would pay for your ticket as you waited, like at a rail station. But this would be for a bus rapid transit line, and that speeds up the service too, because you don't have to wait for someone to do origami to get their dollar into the fare box. They've already done that. And then the bus comes by, the doors open up, you get on, the doors close, and it moves on. We have been working very hard on developing this Greenlight plan, and one of the key components is making sure this is sustainable and we can deliver on this proposed plan if the voters vote for this in November. And in that response, we have been working very closely with our business community. I'm very honored to go and talk to the Gulfport Chamber next week, but many of the business folks told us that they wanted to see the numbers in much greater detail. And so we had completed more than 3,000 pages of planning on this project, but then we had Ernst & Young and an engineering firm called HNTB review the plans again and develop a sustainable financial plan out to 2050 to ensure that this plan could be implemented over the long haul. That's what the Greenlight Pinellas plan is. Again, it is the future rail system, but it is not just the rail system. It is also the bus improvements. It is the land use components that come from those transit investments. That is what is the Greenlight Pinellas plan. That's what's on the ballot this coming November. Now, what are we doing in 2014? Certainly there is a private advocacy campaign that is just getting started called Yes for Greenlight, and you will no doubt hear maybe more traditional advocacy kind of campaign messages coming from that group more and more as we get closer to November. What PSTA and what I am doing with my time lately is going to communities and chambers like yourself and seeking and giving them information about the Greenlight Pinellas plan and then seeking their endorsement. And so let me pass out this proposed draft resolution that you can take a look at, and then I'll be back at a future meeting.
Your map too.
This graphic is supposed to imply that you are not alone if you choose to endorse this plan. I'm actually going to the city of Clearwater for their vote on Thursday. So maybe you can join my graphic. So again, thank you very much for your time. I'll see if Commissioner Barclay or Newton would like to say anything.
Welcome, Commissioner Barclay. How you doing?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I apologize for being a few minutes late.
I was listening to the radio, my OnStar went off.
That's right.
Drove right by it. I haven't had a chance to speak to all of you in person. I am your representative on the PSTA, and I've been in that for about a year and a half, as many of you know. And I've tried very hard to make sure that I do everything I can to develop good relationships with all of the cities that I represent. I actually represent Bel Air Bluffs, which is my city, Gulfport, you folks. I also represent Kansas City. I also represent South Pasadena. As a matter of fact, I was there this morning doing a similar presentation with Mr. Bob Lasher, who is one of the other folks who is helping out with developing relationships with all the cities that would be involved. And lastly, with Seminole, which is probably the biggest city that I represent. In all these cases, what I've tried to do is make sure that all of the contacts are made, make sure that if anybody has any questions, they can contact me directly. If you have a particular issue you want me to represent you for in front of the PSTA board, I will be glad to do so. I'm up for election next week, so hopefully you'll see my smiling face again in the not too distant future. But I want to do everything that I can to help the city of Gulfport, as well as the other cities that I represent, understand the importance of the Greenlight Pinellas program, and make sure that if you have any concerns or questions about how it will impact your city, that you let me know that. So I'm going to pass up my cards to the mayor, and he can pass them along to all the other folks. If there are any questions at any time, please give me a call, and I will be glad to speak with you further. And thank you very much for the opportunity to have a chance to talk to all you folks.
Thanks for coming down from Bel Air Bluffs. Appreciate it. Mr. Newton, how you doing?
Yes, some of you guys might know me. I'm from the small city across the street there on the west side of 49, or east side of 49. It's a pleasure to be addressing you this evening, Mr. Mayor, and Mr. Jim O'Reilly. We got pretty intimate with a property here in Gulfport too, so we're elated to be working with Gulfport, City of St. Peter's. I know we're paving all the streets. It's already been approved that it butts Gulfport and St. Pete. It's going to be beautiful. And once we get through at 49th Street, it's going to be a big deal. I mean, I'm excited about your new chamber president, Mr. Barry Rubin, and the big things that he's doing. Him and I have been involved with Gulfport as long as I can remember, and the chamber. As it pertains to Greenlight, I think you've got an excellent representative in Joe. Joe asked a lot of questions on that board. I mean, if everything is scrutinized to the T, which it should be, everything should be transparent, and most important of all, the people will get an opportunity to vote. In democracy, everybody gets to vote, and that's what's most important. I can tell you that this is equivalent to what we do with the penny for Pinellas. You see all the capital improvements that have been made and how it improved our cities, north and south, east and west, and it's going to be a great day when the people have the opportunity to vote on the future of mass transit. The swap is going to be good because right now, as it stands, the trolley system that they spoke about doesn't go all the way down Central into Treasure Island. Beautiful capital improvement that was made by the late Congressman Young. They brought funds back to have all that done. We turn on Pasadena and go over into the beaches because Treasure Island will participate in the Avalon financing of PSTA, so no buses go out there. However, when you do an Avalon swap and now people are paying the penny, which is 30% is coming from tourism, then everybody can participate. So the buses go everywhere and be able to take the people all around. I've, in the National League of Cities, I traveled to Boston, I traveled on their system, I traveled to Denver, I traveled to Seattle. In all these cities, what's systemic about it is, and the excitement is, what could be for the future of mass transit. And it's a lot of young people that are migrating there because they're ditching those cars. They're looking to be more environmentally friendly and reducing the carbon footprint that they're providing. Also, the young people are faced with higher insurance, as you know, as it takes to own the car. And that dread position that we get in also when we make a decision of when we take the keys away from our more senior citizens and parents. Because once you do that, then you got to drive them around and you got to give a part of your life. So we need a dependable transportation system to be able to accommodate all those things. But most important is, if we do nothing, you're looking at half of what we got now. And that's going to be dire for the whole community. I mean, the beach areas are going to suffer major because as some people you see on those trolleys trying to go out there, imagine not those trolleys running every 2 or 3 hours. they won't be able to get out there. So the people, as far as getting service, is going to impact them enormously. Because we will have a system. It's just going to be scaled down to something that we can afford with the Avalon. A lot of people right now are paying taxes off their home to support this transit system, and they don't even ride it. To me, that's not fair. That's taxation without representation. Here's an opportunity for everybody to kid in a little bit, the tourism to pay a lot more, and we have a more robust transit system. So St. Pete was the first. We had a big shindig on our doorsteps when we did the first resolution. I'm just hopeful that you guys will see fit to support it also. But thank you.
All right, thank you. I think at this point we'll turn it over if council has any questions for Mr. Miller. Feel free to ask at this point. You first.
Yeah, I do. Could you just very briefly describe sort of the sequencing over time? I mean, the first project is clearly Largo and North, right, in terms of the light rail. But, we're on your map down there, we were the color for a trolley coming through, at least if the map is accurate. I've looked at these maps before, and it just seems that things just sort of stop just at about Central Avenue. St. Pete, too, so I'm actually interested in Wengay's position on that. But if I understand that things have to happen, and, it takes time. I lived in both, I lived in Cambridge, Massachusetts, Seattle, Washington, and Portland, Oregon, so I know all about great mass transit, and I know we don't have it here and we're not there. But it's really important, if we're going to advocate for it down at this end, is to understand, maybe we're not in the first line, then we're going to be really seeing some changes that are going to be helpful, but that will eventually be there. And I went to some of these meetings initially, and there was, related to this design, was that wherever there's a station stop, all of a sudden there's a lot of development around that. And you see that when you go to these other major cities, Washington, D.C., wherever this station stop is, there's stuff going on. Well, we could really do that, use that in 49th Street. That would be terrific, but that's never been under discussion. It's never, we've never had anybody, take that and see where it could fit in. So it would be nice, and if not now, if you could send it to us later, if you could have it at the chamber meeting to show us a little bit of a timeline just for basically South County, when we're going to see, faster and more frequent bus service, when are we going to see easier transfers. For example, I was looking at a new job up in Pinellas Park. I could actually ride my bike there faster than to do the transfers to get there. And, it was sort of ridiculous. And I'm ready, I'm ready to ride a bus somewhere, but if it's going to take me 2 hours and I have to leave, at 7 o'clock in the morning, it's just not there. So the sequencing of it, because I'll go out and sell it to everybody because I know the importance of it, but I also need to be able to tell people, and this is what we're going to get here and when we're going to get it.
Right. Okay, well, it's a great question about the sequencing, and we have developed a very detailed sequencing plan that's all available, like all of our information, on greenlightpinellas.com. But essentially, this is a vote. The vote will happen this coming November. Sales tax will actually start January 1st of 2016, so about a year after people vote is when the sales tax kicks in. The property tax actually goes away that October 1st of 2015, slightly prior to that. The first thing out of the box will be the bus improvements. Starting even after the vote, before the sales tax kicks in, we're going to start increasing the span of service and running our existing bus fleet later at night and more on the weekends to roll out this Greenlight plan. And then as we will order the buses, and then as we get more vehicles, then we will increase the frequencies. The route along 22nd Avenue South, it has double the frequency that it has today. And 49th Street is one of our 6 bus rapid transit lines. So it has the highest frequency service. All the bus system improvements, all 6 bus rapid transit lines, the increase in frequency, the new routes over to Tampa, will be implemented in the first 10 years after the vote.
And that includes the airport too?
Plan the proposed rail system, that will come online second. So the rail system will we're estimating to open the rail in about 2023 or 2024, about 10 years after the vote. So that's the general implementation phase, and I can...
And when you said 49th and 22nd, you mean the whole span of both of those streets? So coming all the way down into Gulfport for 49th and all the way between St. Petersburg and
Right
South
now
Pasadena.
we have, the bus rapid transit does stop at Central, and then we have more frequent service than we have now that comes down 49th into Gulfport. And then the 22nd Avenue service is our frequent local, what we call, so that is more frequent, or it's actually doubled what we have today on 22nd Avenue South, and then later span again. So, but I'll make sure to have more of those details for the chamber,
Okay.
the library thing next week.
She asked about the airport transit too bad.
Yeah, when's that going to happen?
To the airport?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that will be one of the very first.
The Tampa or airport or are we talking about Clearwater Airport?
To the Tampa airport, we will start out right away with new services from Clearwater Beach directly to the airport and from downtown St. Pete directly to the airport, starting possibly even in right after the vote in 2015. The long-term plans are, of course, the state has to replace the Howard Franklin Bridge, I-275, over to Tampa, and they are building the new bridge, which will open, I think, about 2020, so that it's strong enough to handle a future rail system. Obviously, we need some help from our partners over in Hillsborough County on that, but it'll start out with what they're talking about, managed lanes or express lanes that the buses will operate, and then the buses will operate directly. That way you can avoid the traffic to get to the airport. The airport, I don't know if they've come down to give you guys a presentation on that, but the airport has a master plan that is extending their people mover system they have now, their train that they have now that takes you out to the gate, down to where the economy parking is, and they're building a whole new rental car facility there. That's under construction now, and then they're going to extend that. The plan is to extend that off of airport property all the way down to I-275. So, into the future, the rail system will cross over the Howard Franklin Bridge, go right down the middle of 275 to downtown Tampa with a stop that will connect to the people mover right to your plane, and you will be able to check in right there and then take the people mover to your flight.
Okay.
So that's one of the
Let
coordinates.
me just mention also that I happen to serve on the Finance Committee, so I'm directly involved in that process, and I'm also on the HART PSTA Oversight Committee, so I'm involved in the integration of the two systems. So again, that's another way that I'm able to help all of you, as well as the other cities that I represent.
Thank you. All right, Councilman Brown, your turn.
You said that people will be able to get here in a different way. And when you said that, did you mean that the buses will be different, there'll be more frequency, more frequent routes that come from different places? What did you mean when you said that?
What I was mainly referring to was that many people today don't see the PSTA system as a really viable option if they have a car. And by operating more frequently, later at night, and on the weekends, they will be able to see this as an option. Maybe not every day, or maybe every day, or maybe only sometimes. The vehicles themselves will be, we'll have specialized vehicles for the bus rapid transit, but all the vehicles will be able to put your bike on them. Mm-hmm. We're installing Wi-Fi on all the buses and trying to make some, we're now actually working on testing out having places to charge your phone. That's been the latest request.
Will they be electric buses? Or
right now our plan is all of our buses that we're buying, and we're slowly retrofitting the old diesel fleet with hybrid electric buses that we already have.
Okay.
And then we are looking for shuttle buses, say in our downtown areas, maybe even in the future a downtown Gulfport type shuttle, to have an all-electric vehicle.
And how far down will the rail come?
Right now, the planned rail system ends in downtown St. Pete. The plan is to go on 1st Avenue South with a stop right at Tropicana Field, and then 2 more stops heading into the downtown core of St. Pete.
Okay.
There will be parking opportunities there. Again, if you want to, ultimately, if you're going to want to go to the airport or someplace north, you will be able to drive and park your car and then catch the train. We'll have park and ride opportunities for the bus system as well.
Will the routes change almost immediately so that the thing that Mrs. Salmon was talking about, having to do 17 transfers to get anywhere, will that be one of the first things that gets beefed up so people don't have to do so many transfers to get into Gulfport or from the beaches? Where is that in the plan?
That is essentially the second thing that will be done. In order to make that happen, we have to have the buses come more frequently.
Right.
You cannot wait at a corner and wait an hour for the next one to come. So you will have to have the buses come more frequently. That requires us to buy more buses, and then so we will place that order right after the vote, but that will just take some time. The first thing will be the extended hours. The second thing will be that that grid system increasing the frequency.
My last question is there anything in the plan that will make the bus stops better for the person that's waiting? So, the rain and the sun, and is there covered benches coming in the future for all bus stops, or just on the more frequently ridden, routes?
Yeah. It's a great question. Right now, PSTA has 5,000 bus stops across Pinellas County, and it has about 300 bus shelters, or covered bus stops. We've got maybe a few hundred additional places that have benches throughout the system. Unfortunately, our capital funding today allows us to implement or replace only about 60 shelters a year.
Okay.
And this will certainly expand our capital program to be able to replace the older benches and shelters faster, and then also add many more locations that do have covered shelters.
Okay.
Lighting is an issue in some areas, to try to add some lighting, maybe even solar lighting, where you can press a button if you're waiting there and then the light comes on. We're looking at all those kinds of things.
Okay.
Let me add one other thing to that. We just recently developed a program where we have a company that has come to PSTA to add advertising at the enclosed shelters. Many of you have seen those as you're driving by. One of the suggestions I made was that we take some of that revenue from the advertising from those shelters and use that to acquire additional shelters. Nobody likes to see somebody sitting on a bus stop waiting for a bus in the rain. Nobody likes to see somebody standing waiting for a bus when it's rainy or cold. So eventually that's an important issue that we will be working on, because that's a critical issue for many of our riders.
Okay, thank you.
Another thing we have with those shelters is what St. Pete's doing. We're leveraging some of our capital improvement dollars with some of the 60 that PST is funding with to try to do more.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because if we can leverage some of our capital improvement money or some of our penny money for that, then they can do twice as many. So we're doing that. And as to the technologies, you asked about how do we know a bus gets around. Currently, we have the GPS on all the buses. So any smartphone device, you can text, it'll tell you when the next bus is coming. But when the frequencies pick up, you don't have to worry about that, because you know every 15 minutes one's coming. So when you step out there, the bus will be there. Either you just missed one or one's coming. And the tracking for the Wi-Fi that Brad spoke about makes the commute more productive.
Right.
As you know, when you drive an hour to work, an hour back, that's 2 hours you ain't gonna get back. But if you can do more on the commuting, I just learned about the electronics of plugging up, because those things do suck on batteries. So that's gonna be another neat option. So all those amenities do come out of that. But it is capital improvement money for shelters. I don't know, how do you have for your area of Gulfport, how many shelters and whatever money's there, but you can leverage some of that. So you don't need it all. But you might say, we want to do this one new, and then next round we're going to do this one and that one, and it'll be half the cost, because we do have money to do that, and we'll probably have more.
Or if Gulfport, let's say, wanted a different looking shelter,
Yeah,
or something that looked nice, or maybe something that you would like very specifically for Gulfport,
Right.
what Mr. Newton is talking about is basically we will give you the money. We'll give you the money from our CIP and work with you, and you can design your own shelter that fits your community, or add your own money to it, and maybe get more shelters.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Fedovich, any questions?
Yeah,
I lived in Atlanta from before MARTA and after MARTA, and I live downtown, so I know what it can do and what it can't do. The one question I do have is, would there be a park and ride somewhere in our area over here, in the Gulfport, St. Pete area, close by? Is there any place to even do a park and ride, or a place?
The plan calls for a park and ride essentially at the southern end of US 19, which is where the bus rapid transit starts. We're talking with Eckerd College about having a park and ride system maybe tied into with their campus, but we can certainly look at other locations.
Because I can be downtown St. Pete in 12 minutes by car. If I don't want to take my car, or if someone wants to come to Gulfport and then go shopping in St. Pete, it's got to be a place to park your car long enough to be able to do that. So I'm asking, is there somewhere around here that we can actually do a park and ride?
You have 119 is a lot of those commercial vacant spaces that we had with the big, huge parking lots.
Right.
You can do a partnership where you reserve a portion of that for parking rides.
Yeah, I'm talking about this area though, because you're not going to drive all the way to 19 to go over there to park.
Well, the challenge you have, like we have Gecko Fest and all those events, people trying to park, they park it everywhere they can, in every nook and cranny.
Right.
But if you can throttle them in from a place,
True.
So one person also asked about the rail. The reason the rail is not running all the way through St. Pete, all the way through Gulfport is the expense.
Yeah.
It's millions and millions per mile. But we can bring the people to it. With a BRT, you're talking 1 or 2 stops. First the 15 or 20 stops she might go to try to get to Pinellas Park.
Oh, no, it's only 2.
Oh, it's only 2.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just
But
bad
I'm talking
timing.
about the frequency too, though. The frequency too, and with them being able to change
Right.
the lights a lot quicker. But I can tell you that it's going to help, especially going over there to the one that the line over to Tampa. Because I don't know if you know now, but they get $20 a day to park a car in Tampa in the airport. So that alone, if you got a 5-day trip, will save you $100 just jumping on a BRT to go over there. But what I see short term is if you don't acquire the land, the right of way, you're gonna have to do partnerships with those commercial structures on those.
Okay.
We got a big one here on the end with Save-A-Lot and Dollar General. I mean, they got a huge parking lot, but a portion of that could be for,
That's a good
we
point.
utilize it
Good
for
point.
trolleys, but, things like that. We do partnerships. We're doing one with Pinellas Park, with the restroom that they're putting in the back of Pinellas Mall, so we do
Okay.
do that.
Okay.
I mean, this guy here is an excellent resource. The things she was mentioning about why can't we do this and that, he's right there sitting on board. So.
Well, it makes sense to go from thank you. It makes sense to go from the airport to the beach, because Atlanta originally started from the airport to Atlantic Square, so people come in and shop and get back and going back to the airport. So that's where your tourist money comes in. So that's the only question I had.
All right. Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I had just a few questions. First of all, thank you for being here this evening. I appreciate the presentation and your willingness to take our questions. The first question I have is, how much has been spent on the Greenlight Pinellas outreach initiatives to date, and how much more is budgeted to be spent between now and November?
Okay, so of course we've been spending money on developing all of these plans, but I think in addition to that, we did hire a firm and develop the Greenlight Pinellas plan logo and outreach process and the whole planning process that developed the collaborative plan that got us to the county vote. That was about $395,000 we spent last year to develop the Greenlight Pinellas website, the logo, and the multiple different committees and outreach effort. The PSTA budget that we're in now originally had $150,000 of additional funds to take us all the way through this through the vote on outreach, basically doing the same things we did, and then the PSTA board just approved this last week additional funds, no additional funds, but just shifting around within our existing budget, other marketing funds. So the total, instead of $150, will be between $350,000 and $400,000. Up to that amount, yeah.
So for a total of $795,000, and that includes things like these refrigerator magnets and these little clip-on things and
Yeah.
this bag and...
Yes.
Okay. Has any of the outreach material discussed the cons of the Greenlight Pinellas plan?
No.
And who is the privately funded advocacy campaign? Who's going to be funding that campaign?
The private sector.
And is that
no, that is not PSTA, but there's a Yes for Greenlight campaign, and that is funded through private donations and essentially business leaders. One of the leaders is the St. Pete Chamber President Chris Steinacher. Pinellas Realtors Organization is involved in that. Tampa Bay Partnership is involved in that. Business organizations or business folks will be donating to that campaign and then raising money to advocate on behalf of that campaign.
If I could, Brad, you also have two organizations. You got one, No Tax for Tracks, which is a political action committee. You have to file papers so they can take donations in. And Yes for Greenlight is another political action committee. So it's two of them that are registered out there that are collecting money for the private sector, just like we do when we file our campaign papers and take in money. They have to be documented and show where they're spending it. But that's
So all the private funding for the advocacy campaign will come from PACs?
Those are two PACs. You got one PAC that's saying no tax for trash. You got another PAC that's advocating for the yes vote. But those are political action committees. We cannot participate in that.
Right, I'm just talking about who's funding the advocacy campaign, not the no tax for
It would be
tracks.
donations.
Okay, it's all through donations.
But what I'm trying to tell you is that it's two entities, and they both are political action committees.
Right, I understand there's two entities. I'm only talking about the advocacy for the Greenlight
Right, it's
Pinellas.
two of them, but I'm just saying they get their money from wherever, like we do. We call people and they donate, we have to document it, and we're going to take so much and whatnot.
Okay.
It's two of those.
Okay. I got an email from you on the 27th, and it said that the Greenlight Pinellas plan eliminates the PSTA's property tax, but I don't think there's any wording in the ballot that declares this or touches on it.
Right.
So by eliminate, I think we mean that we're going to set the millage rate for PSTA to 0, but it doesn't actually remove the state law which allows the tax to be levied. So how can the citizens of Pinellas be assured that the PSTA property tax will be eliminated and state law changed if the PSTA sales tax increase is approved?
That's a great question. The PSTA board has voted and attempted to actually have the state eliminate the ability for PSTA to levy the property tax that was created with the PSTA enabling legislation. That vote passed the House and the Senate of the state 2 years ago and was vetoed by the governor. It was vetoed. What he said was because that could be handled locally. This was a local issue, and so that is what we're doing. In order for PSTA to receive the sales tax from Pinellas County, because it's collected by the Pinellas County clerk and rests in that office, and then there is an interlocal agreement that we're actually negotiating right now with Pinellas County that will basically transfer the money from the clerk to PSTA to implement the Greenlight Pinellas plan. In that agreement, because the state did not eliminate the ability of PSTA to levy the property tax, the agreement will cover that and essentially say that if a future board, a future PSTA were to ever exercise their right to levy a property tax, that the county will deduct a penalty and not give PSTA the sales tax. So essentially there would be no incentive for the PSTA to ever levy the property tax. Now, after the vote in November of 2014, it is the plan of the PSTA board to again ask the state to eliminate even the ability to levy the property tax once and for all.
So the agreement will be in place prior to the November vote?
Yes.
Okay, and how far along is it right now?
We're targeting actually the county commission vote on May 6th to approve that.
Okay. In the Greenlight Pinellas plan, the information that's on the website, it says it's partly built on a premise that the population of Pinellas County is projected to increase by 200,000 people by 2040. My question is, did the University of Florida assist with developing that population projection which the Pinellas MPO used in their report?
I can find that out.
I think it did. So if you look at the population data that was presented in the MPO report, I can see how some are, some might understand that, there's cherry picking of data going around, because the 200,000 population increase by 2040 used in the promotional material is actually the highest possible growth scenario in the report. The medium scenario in the Pinellas report, or the population report, shows stagnant or losing 1 to 2% population by 2040. So my question is, why are we not using the medium scenario for population forecasts when promoting Greenlight Pinellas, or specifying in the promotions that the population forecast is based on the highest numbers found, which by default is kind of like the most unlikely scenario to reach that population forecast. So,
Sir, I can find out some more information about what you're describing, but I believe what you're describing is inaccurate, is not the MPO's data for the population growth statistic. It is one source.
it's on the Greenlight Pinellas website. It says the population forecast is projected to increase by 200,000.
The MPO is developing 3 scenarios for their long-range transportation plan, which they're required to do. And that one scenario is implementation of the Greenlight Pinellas plan, and that does tie to, I believe it is the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Model, not the University of Florida, but I will confirm that. And it does tie to the greatest population growth scenario that's been forecasted.
Okay. Yeah, I think you've answered that question. Thank you.
Implementing the Greenlight Pinellas plan, according to the MPO's model, will generate the highest growth according to the 3 scenarios.
If we have 200,000 people move to Pinellas County by 2040, is that what you're saying?
That's what the estimate is.
Okay. Also in your email from the 27th, you said Pinellas property owners with taxable values over 150,000 will see decreases in their overall taxes. Most of the houses in Gulfport are under 150,000 in value, even though the median may be higher than that. So does that mean most of Gulfport residents can expect a tax increase if the PSTA sales tax increase passes?
You say most of the
homes in Gulfport by number, not by median price, are probably under $150,000. Also, when you look at the median home price in Pinellas County, according to Zillow, it's $143,600. So if that's true, then can a majority of Pinellas County residents expect to see a tax increase?
My data was from the 2010 U.S. Census that said that the median value, which means half the homes are less and half are more, value in Gulfport was $189,000 or $190,000.
That may be the median value, but in terms of numbers,
that would be.
I think we have 4,000 homes in Gulfport.
About 5,000 parcels.
5,000. Okay. But so the median's 189, but in reality, the average home value in Gulfport is not above 150,000, and in Pinellas, it's only 143.6. So yeah, I'm just trying to understand: is half the county going to see a tax increase if this passes?
Again, they will see they will pay a sales tax, and they will not pay a property tax for a substantially increased amount of public transportation.
It just seems like, if you're poor or lower middle income or a tourist, you can expect a tax increase if this plan passes. Based on your email stating that values of over 150 will see decreases. That's what I'm seeing.
You might be able to choose to not own one or both of your cars for the first time, especially our lowest income folks who don't own cars and rely on the public transportation service to get around.
One of the other concerns I have is if voters approve the 1% PSTA sales tax, can the funds generated, which right now is estimated to be $130 million, can those be used as collateral to obtain additional sources of funding, and are you aware of any intentions to do so?
The sales tax, the financial plan that goes out to 2050 does call for the capital investments in this program to be debt financed, yes.
Debt financed. Okay, so that money will be used as collateral to obtain additional sources of funding.
The sales tax, the stream of sales tax revenue will be used to finance the capital improvements.
And we will go into debt if the Greenlight Pinellas passes.
Yes.
Yes, okay. What benefit will Gulfport or most of southern Pinellas achieve by the Greenlight Pinellas plan?
I would be glad to go through my presentation again. I believe there would be some value.
There would be some value. Are you hearing complaints from people in Gulfport that use the PSTA service? That they're not getting adequate service, or the times are wrong, or what are you hearing from Gulfport residents?
We do hear complaints that there is just not enough service, especially sometimes for your major events and things, and we don't hardly have any service on the weekends.
I will say I think he's going to have those questions on the 16th.
Okay. Yeah.
So he is doing the forum.
So okay.
We hear complaints about the level of service
From Gulfport.
from residents of Gulfport.
Okay.
Yes.
So what is going to happen if we pass the Greenlight Pinellas initiative and we've went to 8% sales tax? What's going to happen when the penny for Pinellas comes up for a revote? I think we get $1 million a year for capital improvements on that. It's hypothetical, but what do you think the chances of that getting renewed are if we already are paying an additional 1% sales tax for PSTA?
People have asked that. I can tell you that the information that we have gleaned from polls about the Greenlight Pinellas plan, I don't think they've asked that a specific question, but at least the history of Pinellas County and the vote on penny for Pinellas, which will be in 2017, is based on the value that citizens see for the projects that they get out of that penny. And they'll look at this in a very similar way, as Councilmember Newton said, that they'll base it on what they get for their investment. And they'll look at the Greenlight Pinellas plan, see if they want to support mass transit, and then in 2017, if Gulfport has an awesome list of projects to be funded, the voters will weigh in on that.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
All right, Mr. Miller. Well done, gentlemen.
Thank you.
That was interesting.
Can I ask one more quick one?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay. Now, just two quick questions. At some point down the road, are we talking about tying in with Pasco and Hillsborough and making it all one continuous bus situation?
As Mr. Barkley mentioned, there's been a lot of discussions you probably read about merging or consolidating Hillsborough and Pinellas. That's been the main effort, but the idea of connecting the services, yes, actually we're right now in the midst of implementing a region-wide smart card system, so like Atlanta and other places where you can basically have one card to travel on any system from Pasco to Manatee to Hillsborough.
Make sure we don't end up like Atlanta. If you pass this, that all cities will have to participate. Am I correct?
That's correct. It'll be county-wide.
Okay, which is what the problem Atlanta has, is because some of the counties don't participate. They're the ones that need it the most. That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
All right.
Got an easy one. I just want some definition on the map. The lighter purple colored lines, those are flex routes, correct? I can't see the color on the map.
The lighter purple lines are increased, what we call local routes.
Okay.
The shaded ovals are areas where feeder or local connectors, those could be flex routes.
I just wanted to be clear, because I think we had a comment earlier that a trolley was going to come through based on this plan, but that is on Central Avenue.
That's right.
Not 22nd
The purple
Avenue
line
South, is that right?
Trolley, Central Avenue.
Okay.
Going north-south, I think, by Gulfport. Isn't that purple?
There's a light blue line that goes through Gulfport, and then the orange line. The orange line is the increased frequent service, and then the light blue is sort of our basic level of service.
Okay. I mean, one of the most interesting things to me is there seems to be a real stigma attached to public transportation. I think that's unfortunate because a lot of cities have done well with that, and not to tie Ireland back into all this too, but there was none of that stigma attached to public transportation. In Ireland, in fact, more people took buses than cabs or drove their own car. What is, in the course of doing all this, what have you found to be the best influence in getting people to use mass transit when we're clearly a culture that's tied to their vehicles?
It's a great question, but having worked in many cities and ridden the transit in every place I've lived myself, people will ride it if it makes sense to them. There's some people that will give up their cars and ride it out of principle, but there's maybe not so many of those people. Most people will ride it if it makes sense, either for their job or maybe just to go to a ball game or whatever. And so that requires the service level. In Ireland and other places, the service is much more frequent. And
that's kind of what you're striving for.
Yeah.
Well,
And to that too, Mayor, is
Sure.
amenities. That's why you have the Wi-Fi. He's talking about plugging up devices. Everybody
Making it more attractive to riders.
Like you got here, they want to be able to utilize it, so they want to stay connected. So the Wi-Fi we started on some of the hybrid buses that we're currently running, and now he's going to start electric, so you can charge the stuff there. You got to get the amenities to get them up out of the car. If you've been in a car like mine, you got 3 car chargers for devices like this and the iPad to try to keep on going. You got to give them options. Right now, gas at $3.40 a gallon. and that don't do nothing to you, something will. My brother-in-law lives in Pasco. Someone mentioned Pasco, and he works downtown Tampa for Hillsborough County. Now, before he was paying $350 a month driving over the veterans, go fighting all that traffic to get downtown. Now they have a BRT that runs from Pasco to downtown, and it costs him $30 a month. So that's $320 more he get to spend with his family, and it fuels that local economy too. So it's a lot of benefits to it. Will everybody come out of their car? No. Are we trying to get everybody? No, but we will get a lot of those cars off the street.
Well, and here's the other benefit, is if you're one of the ones that's going to stay in your car, there's going to be other cars around you that aren't there anymore. So, so that's another benefit. I want to thank you. I want to give you another minute or so if there's something you want to say. If you want to sell the plan in 100 words or less to the citizens of Gulfport, I'd like to give you the last words. You put up with a lot of tough questions from this council, and I appreciate you coming down, all of you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I mean, one of the keys that came out of the failed 2010 referendum by Hillsborough County was they didn't have a plan before they went to the voters, and they certainly hadn't reached consensus. And we have a very solid plan. It's been worked very hard and had a lot of public involvement. And we believe that we do have consensus, not just from government officials across the county, but government officials, business leaders, and civic organizations are standing up and being supportive, and so I hope to come back to the Gulfport Council at a future date for you to consider that resolution or something like that. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. And
Thank you.
please, everyone, remember Greenlight Pinellas, the website, if you want to say it again.
GreenlightPinellas.com.
There you go. And March 16th is the forum at the Gulfport Public Library for people who have questions in the audience. 13th, March 13th. There we go. Thank you very much, everybody. All right. And with that, we move on to a recognition of service that we are going to present to our Ward 3 Councilwoman, Jennifer Salmon, in recognition of your valuable leadership to the community and in grateful acknowledgement of your